All right, welcome back. Today, again, we're back we're gonna try to see if Apple, have they responded? And we're gonna go straight into it because I just am too excited and I can't really wait. So potentially tonight they have, or last night I guess, they might have reviewed the app and might have approved it, but who knows? In review. So the app is in review right now. What does that mean? I guess it's being reviewed. So that doesn't really do much for us. The next thing is the transferring of the domain. Has that gone through? Refresh. Nope, that hasn't gone through. Okay, what do we do? What do we do now? Literally just in a stall. It's a good thing though, I think, that it's in review, because usually it's taken only 24 hours for these reviews to be done. So the fact that it hasn't quite, it actually has been 24 hours since I submitted it for review. It's been more than 24 hours since I submitted it, which means that they are taking slightly longer to review it this time, which might be a good thing. I don't really know though, but I'm cautiously hopeful that it might be a good thing. Anyway, actually something that I came up with yesterday was a new feature after I stopped filming, like in the evening I think I came up with this. So I want to match users based on actual compatibility, not hobbies. So this is kind of revolutionary, I would say. And the reason, we're probably not going to do anything today on the app, so this is just going to be a philosophical discussion about, or rather a monologue, because there's no one to talk back to me, so there's not a discussion. But I'm going to share some of my thoughts of how to match people, because one of the main problems with the apps right now, or with the app right now, is that I have actually no sort of matching mechanism. There's nothing that helps you get matched with a person that might be suitable for you. Right now, I haven't even implemented the distance thing. So right now, if I go online at the same time as someone in like Dubai or South America goes online, I can be matched with that person, which isn't really what we want, I don't think, for this app, because ideally you want to be fairly close to each other so that there's actually a realistic possibility that you will meet, which I don't think that distance like that is not necessarily something that has to be a deal breaker, but for most people I think it becomes a deal breaker, because it's not possible to travel more than 24 hours to see someone often enough for that to become a relationship. But again, back to the thing, right now there are no matching algorithm other than who's online and available, and of the correct gender, of course. I think the age thing is also implemented, but I'll have to double check that. But if we dig a little bit deeper into this, because one of the main problems with the app is that you don't see who you talk to. And so if, let's say that there are like thousands of people on the app, and you actually have a decent pool to select from or to find your match in, then you wouldn't want to spend like 5 minutes in a phone call with someone who, let's say that you're allergic to dogs or something and they have a dog. You don't want to talk to that person, or ideally you wouldn't want to get matched with that person, because that's going to be a deal breaker. You won't be able to, or maybe you have a phobia of dogs. I don't know, something that is just, for you, it becomes a deal breaker. And if there are enough users on the app, then you would want these filters to become better and better. And maybe even at the start, we would want these filters to be quite good. But then I want to ask questions to the users that are actually good for compatibility, which I don't think that the dating apps today do. I don't know of a dating app, at least, that does this in a good way. I think some dating apps, if I'm not mistaken at least, I think some dating apps look at, like, ask you some questions to figure out your personality. But I think that's also a poor indication of long-term compatibility. So what I want within the app, ideally, would be for each user to answer some questions about themselves. And these questions should not be, what are your interests? What are your hobbies? Like, that might be a part of it, and that can be something that we'll use. But what I think is more important to answer is things like, how do you deal with a conflict? Like, what are you like in a conflict or an argument? Are you the type of person that has to deal with it straight away and you want to talk it out? Or are you the type of person that wants to take a break and go away for a while, think about it, and come back when you're fresh and you've actually had time to process this? Because that is, if the person that wants to like dive into it straight away and the person that wants to take, like, that needs maybe a day to think about it or to process what has happened, if those two are together, it's going to be extremely difficult. It's not impossible, I don't think. So it's not something that, like, it doesn't equal complete incompatibility to have those opposite traits, but it makes things very difficult, because essentially the person that typically, I think the way that this works is that the person that has to that takes longer to process their emotions or what happened or the situation, what they think of it and what they did wrong, what the other person did wrong, all of that, those sort of things, that type of person, it's quite hard for them to match the other person. And the other person that wants to dive into it straight away, typically, I'm one of those people, and typically those type of people, I think, struggle with letting something go or leaving things as they are. Like, I'm the type of person, I don't want to go to bed angry or upset. I want to solve whatever it is that we're dealing with before we go to bed, so that we go to sleep as friends. But if you're with someone that has the opposite trait, they might need to go to sleep as, like, without this being solved, with a conflict still in the air, and like they're kind of fine with that or able to handle it a lot better than I am, at least. And so for them, what they need makes things worse for me, if that makes sense. And so the type of compatibility questions that you want to ask, I think, are questions that actually get at these types of things, which I haven't ever seen an app ask those questions. Like, I've never ever seen, not that I haven't been on that many, so maybe there are some, but I haven't seen a dating app that asks you, how do you deal with conflict? Like, what would you want to do if you had a conflict? Would you want to talk it out? Would you want to take a break? Would you want to come back to it? Like, obviously you'd have to phrase this in a way where it's, I think when you do qualitative studies, you think a lot about how do we phrase the questions so as not to like lead the witness. Because we don't want to make it seem, because for me, obviously, since I'm the type of person that wants to deal with it straight away, I'm going to subconsciously formulate these answers in ways that make it, because I don't really understand the other way of dealing with it, if I'm going to be honest. It's such a hard thing for me. Like, it's so impossibly difficult for me to just let it go and go to bed and pretend, like, wait. Even though that might be good for me at times, like, it probably isn't the worst thing to learn to let things go in that way. But it's something that's so foreign to me that I can't quite understand it, if that makes sense, which means that if I'm gonna type out questions for like, okay, are you the type of person that wants to deal with it straight away and solve it? Like, those two things, or those answers to those questions are very like positive, I think, tilted. Whereas when I would go into like, or are you the type of person that wants to take a break, wait until the next day, process these things, think about how you feel, those things have sort of a negative connotation to me, and I think they would to the person taking the answering the questions as well. So I don't want to. So that's something that I'm thinking about. I don't know if this makes sense. I don't know how I'm formulating this for you to understand it, but what I think is important is that the questions aren't angled in a certain way. They're not made to look or made to make one type of trait look better than another type of trait. Because I think that's something that a lot of personality tests and things like that online get wrong, is that when you're taking them, you kind of feel like, well, there is a right and a wrong answer here. And that should not be the case. Like, you should feel like there are no right and wrong answers when I'm looking at these things. These are just like, this is how this person deals with it, this is how this person deals with it, and this is how this person deals with it. And it's like neutral statements that aren't adding any that aren't evaluating which one is good and which one is worse. Because I think there's real benefits to being able to let things go. And I probably need more of that in my life, even though I'm cautious about the fact that just because that was a negative trait in one situation doesn't mean that it's a negative trait in a different situation. It might actually be good with the right type of person. I still think that it's generally a thing that's quite good to have a little bit of, to be able to let things go a little bit. But anyway, those types of questions I think are important to be asking within a dating app, especially if you're trying to actually connect people. I think they're way more important than asking about hobbies, for instance. Because hobbies, I mean, some people have no hobbies, some people have hundreds of hobbies. And from what I understand, hobbies are actually kind of a poor predictor of compatibility. Obviously you can't be like too different, but hobbies sometimes get conflated, I think, with lifestyle. So what's your lifestyle like versus what are your hobbies? Because the thing that I think hobbies can make people incompatible is if let's say that I'm I'm really interested in like hiking or exercising or reading or doing those sort of things, but I hate watching TV. Then the core question or the core component of that is not the things that I'm doing. It's not necessarily that I would need a partner that does these things with me. Like, they can watch TV while I read. They can watch TV while I go for a run. They can watch TV while I do whatever. Actually, let's say traveling might be a better example. Let's say that one of my biggest hobbies is traveling, and anytime I get free time, I will travel. And that sort of and then let's say that we have another person who doesn't have that as a hobby. Like I really want to explain this well. I think I don't need to go as deep as I'm trying to go here, but the idea is essentially that the hobbies lead to a lifestyle. So if because I might find someone that is super compatible, like we have the exact same hobbies, but the way that it plays out for them is that they have a full-time job, so they work until like 5 p.m. and then after that they do all of their hobbies. Whereas for me, I am very fortunate in the fact that I do this sort of stuff for a living, so I can manage my own schedule a lot and manage my own time, which means that I can fit my hobbies in earlier in the day, and that means that the evening time I usually don't have a ton of energy to go out and do a lot of things. And so if I would get matched with a person based on hobbies only, then we might seem super compatible in terms of the hobbies, but the lifestyle that we are living doing the same hobbies is completely different. Like, that person might be up until like 1 a.m. trying to get all of their hobbies in every single day. Whereas I am the type of person that it's rare that I go out after like 8 p.m. It's rare that I go out of my apartment. It's probably rare that I go out of my apartment after 7 p.m., to be honest. So, but I still have a lot of hobbies that are outside of the apartment. It's just that I like to do them during the day, and I really dislike going out in the evening because I'm tired and I feel like I want to relax and I want to get to bed at a reasonable time. And so in that sense, depending on the metric that you're looking at, you might get a person that actually has a completely different lifestyle that's utterly incompatible with you, but you have the exact same hobbies. Like, down to the 100th hobby that you have, all of them match. It's just that you're never going to be able to do them together because you won't have the energy, because you're the type of person like me that wants to kind of wind down in the evening and settle in. Whereas the other person is like, I want to go out, I want to do all these sort of things now. So that's why I think hobbies are a quite bad predictor of compatibility, because you want someone obviously that shares some of your interests. I think that's good. I think it's hard to be with someone that doesn't share any of your interests. I think, but at the same time, the core foundation of that is probably lifestyle. Like, if you can get the users to explain what does my life look like? What does an average day look like? When do I typically get up in the morning might be a good thing. When do I typically go to bed at night when do I have the most energy during the day might also be a good thing for compatibility, because if you're the type of person that has the most amount of energy at night or in the evening, then being with someone that has the least amount of energy in the evening is probably a really bad idea. And these things, I like talking about them right now gets me really excited, because I'm like, I think we can do something really cool here, where we can actually like match people based on those sort of things, like actual compatibility. Even things like, where do you want to live? Are you a city person? Do you want to live in the city? Do you want to live in the country? Do you want to live by the ocean or in the middle of the country? Do you want what's another thing that you could ask there? There was something I was thinking about. Yeah, don't you care? Like, are you open to all of them? Like, I could live wherever, really. And I think that these things are going to be way better at predicting who you're going to have long-term compatibility with than I'm interested in nature. I'm interested in coffee. Because typically these dating apps that exist, they have just like, you can select some hobbies or interests. And I feel like they do absolutely nothing, to be honest. So we want to try to get like a more complete picture of a person. Love languages, I think, is important. But I think also love languages is one of those things. I've thought about this a lot. I think love language is one of those things where it's hard to know what your love language is, I think. But I should also say that like 2 years ago, I thought that love languages was like bullshit, because I figured like, well, how could you have a relationship with someone if you don't spend time together, if you don't have physical touch, if you don't give words of affirmation or like, I don't know what all the love languages are, but there are so many languages, and my analysis at that time was just like, well, how could a relationship work if you don't have these things? But I have realized since then that that is true, I think. I think that you need all of them in a healthy relationship, but I think that some people need more of certain things and more of other things. And I think that some people, for me, for instance, I don't really, like acts of service, that sort of thing, it doesn't really translate to me. Like, obviously it translates in a small degree, like you need acts of service in a certain sense in the relationship. And if I didn't have it, then I would probably want a lot more of it. But I think that it's one of those things that's like, I sort of have to translate that in my head. Like my parents, they have the acts of service, that's like the main thing that they do. And as I've grown older, I've realized that and had to, what do you call that? Yeah, well, act as like a translator for myself. So like when something happens to me, something happens in my life that's hard, let's say, my dad, the first thing that he'll do, he'll be like, oh, yeah, should I go fix your boat? Should I help you with the, have you made sure that the engine is like set up for winter or whatever? Like he'll be that sort of thing. And to me, the younger version of myself, I was like, why are you doing this? Why are you like talking about stuff like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like, why do you what does that have to do with anything? Or why are you talking about my boat right now? I don't care about the boat at this point. But as I've gotten older, like this has been a realization that I've had for like the past 5, 6, 7 years, I think, but maybe 5 years. But I've realized that, okay, that's his way of showing love, if that makes sense. Like he didn't have that growing up. And so for him, it's like, if I can help Cal by taking care of all of these other things that would bother me, like him, because he would struggle with the fact that he would have to do all of these things and he didn't have anyone to help him with those sort of things whenever something happened to him, I guess. This is my assumption, my analysis of my own dad, is that he didn't have parents that were there for him, because of the fact that they passed away when he was really small. And so I think that means that he has gone his whole life kind of wishing that he had some parents there to help him with certain things. When things were tough for him, he felt like, oh, I wish I didn't have to, I wish I had someone who could help me, like take the car in for a service or something. But he didn't have it. So now that he has children, he is super excited about, or not super excited necessarily, but just, I think somewhat unaware that this is what he just does that because he's like, this is what I wish I had. And I can now do this for him. Like I can take care of the boat while he's sad. Whereas what I feel like I need in that moment is maybe just hang out here, just be with me, don't go somewhere else. And I think it's something that I think is pretty important to realize and to be aware of in your life, is that people do these things for different reasons. And if you act, like if I would have acted on my own instinct in those situations, I would get like upset with my parents or my dad or whoever for the way that they act in those situations. But that's not really, like that's sort of missing the point, because they are doing whatever they can in that moment. It's just that for you it doesn't translate. So for you it feels like what's happening. But if you think deeper about it, you realize that, okay, this is him trying his best to do whatever he can to help me in this moment. And all of a sudden it becomes kind of nice and you feel like, oh, I really appreciate it. But the problem is that that kind of works with your parents, it kind of works with your siblings, it kind of works with your friends. I feel like it doesn't really work that well if you're with a partner that's like that. If you have incompatible like love language in terms of where you really need or where you really receive love or whatever. If the way that your partner really receives love is through acts of service, but for you, it's through like time together and physical, what's that called? Physical touch. Then you are going to try to do different things for each other, and you're not going to see what the other person does because you're like, well, I could have made dinner. That wasn't really a problem. So when they did the act of service thing towards you and made dinner, but didn't hug you or whatever it might have been, you feel like, well, if you would have just hugged me, I could have made dinner. And same for them. It's like if you hug them a lot and they feel like, well, why aren't you like cleaning or why aren't you making dinner? It doesn't translate as well, if that makes sense. But I also think that you have to be careful about this sort of stuff because I think you're colored by your relationships that you have been in. So I think that if you've been in a relationship that's lacked something, so maybe it lacked, like it was really lacking in acts of service, let's say, then I think that you can get confused and start thinking that acts of service is like, that's the thing, that's what I want. But you're sort of clouded by, you're not seeing like objective reality of what you need, you're seeing the specific case of what you needed in that relationship, because that's what you didn't get. Whereas then, so you might then go out looking for, okay, I'm looking for someone who wants to give acts of service. And then when you find that, you realize that, oh, fuck, actually, physical intimacy or physical touch or whatever, that's what I need, because this person is great at the acts of service, but I don't need all of that. I just wanted you to like help me out every now and then, like once a week, help me out by making dinner or something. But really, 7 days a week, I need the hugs and I need like the time together. And this person might only be giving the acts of service, but not the time and all of that stuff. So then you start thinking, well, okay, this is what I need. And then you go out looking for that and you realize that, oh, actually, gifts are kind of nice, and surprises or whatever. I don't know what the love languages are, but that I think you have to be careful of. And I don't really know how you figure that sort of stuff out, but I think that you could design a questionnaire in a way that sort of gives insights into these sort of things, where we don't directly ask you, what is your love language? Because I think that is a question that sort of opens up for, really what that question is asking, I think, is what were you missing in the last relationship you had? And I think that's a poor predictor of what you need in the future. So, but this is also always going to be the issue with questionnaires when it comes to dating, like trying to figure out what you want, because all that you can do is base your answers or what you're searching for on whatever experiences that you've had, and yeah, that's basically what you can base it on. And so we want to ideally design a questionnaire that can kind of bypass your own beliefs about yourself, while still allowing you to answer truly and like to answer what you think. Because like one thing that I'm thinking here is that we could be asking questions of like, okay, okay, this is a really shitty way to do this, but like, when do you feel most loved? And then you give some examples, like your partner comes home and or you come home from work and your partner's cleaned the apartment for you. Or you come home from work and your partner like greets you with hugs and kisses. Or you come home from work and your partner has canceled a hangout with his friends. I'm trying to think of like, how do you represent time together without like physical touch or anything like that. So maybe he's canceled a hangout with a friend just to like spend some time with you in the evening. You could have those sort of questions, but the only problem is then if you ask the question of like, when do you feel most loved? Before that, most people will be able to deduce that, okay, this is trying to figure out my love language. And if the question itself makes it too obvious what we're trying to figure out, and the answers themselves makes it too obvious what they are, then people will game the system. Not consciously, I don't think they would, but it would be subconscious, where you would, because you think that, okay, well, I need physical touch as my love language. And then you would select that answer, even though if you were in like a neutral state or you didn't understand what the question was about, you might think that, well, actually, I would feel most loved if I came home from work and he'd made dinner or she'd made dinner. And yeah, I think, because that's what I usually feel like when you're asking or answering, I mean, those sort of questions, is that especially the personality tests, which I've done some of, like there's this Myers-Briggs test that you can do. I feel like Myers-Briggs is pretty good, I would say. Not that I'm like better or could come up with a better test, but I think it's pretty good. It's just that it's hard to know. First of all, it's hard to know which one am I, like which answer to these questions do I actually feel like is me. And it's also hard to be honest about what you actually think in these situations. And so I think you would want to do something where you prime the users. So before they start answering the questions, you prime them with a little text where you just say some things that should set them up in a good headspace to answer the questions from a place that is them and not something else. Because I think priming is quite powerful from what I've understood. And it can affect the outcomes of studies quite a lot. But so what we want to do is we want to prime users in a we don't want to prime users to get them to say a certain thing, but we want to prime users to feel a certain way so that they can answer truthfully, if that makes sense. Because you could prime users in a different way, where you prime them to with things that might make them because essentially what you want to do is you want to put the users in the mindset of, I want to find the person that's right for me, instead of I want to be the right person for someone else. And depending on how you prime them, you could prime them to be in the state of, am I good enough for someone else? And if you have them in that state and then you put them into a questionnaire, they're probably going to answer questions based on what they think would be the best, or what they think would get them the best type of match. Or like, for instance, let's say that the hobbies was a question. A person that's in the state of like, I want to be the perfect person for someone else, that person might be looking for hobbies that they think an attractive woman would have, so that they could get matched with that attractive woman. Whereas if you prime them to be like, I want to find the person that actually fits into my life, or that is right for me, then that person might be looking at the hobbies and trying to figure out, okay, which hobbies actually describe me the best here? And they would probably select completely different hobbies. So I think there are, actually let's write that down, because I think we want questionnaire, I don't know how you spell that, but something like that. Questionnaire about compatibility before the test. Prime users to before the test, prime users to get grounded and honest answers. I think this stuff is very exciting, because it's like you could really create an app here that would match users that would actually find like compatible people in a way more scientific way than what I think I've seen on any other dating apps. Because I also think that there's something, I want to call this like a dating app drift, which is where you start out on a dating app, but before you get the dating app, you have very firm principles and you feel like, okay, this is what I want and I am not going to budge on these sort of things. But then you spend more and more time on the dating apps and all of a sudden you kind of like, well, actually maybe this could work and maybe that could work and maybe that could work, and you get more lenient with your principles. And I think that leads to a poor outcome as well, because then if you become more lenient with your principles, then what happens? Well, you end up getting matched with people that are not quite within what you're actually looking for. So it means that you spend time on people that are like outside of what you really want, and that makes you probably feel more hopeless. It's like this negative spiral almost, I think, where it's like you open up, you start out with a really slim funnel, let's say, for people where it's like most people are going to fall outside of this funnel and you're not going to match with, you're not going to like, you're not going to have interactions with. But then as you feel like, okay, well, the few that do fall in here, I still don't feel like they're quite what I am looking for. So you start to like expand it a little bit. And then now you're getting a little bit more in the funnel. But what you're getting is not, like you're not getting more of what you want, you're just getting more, if that makes sense. And then you feel more and then you probably feel more like it's even more difficult. Like now I'm getting way more people here, but it seems like they're like, it's still not enough. Like I'm not getting good ones. So then you're like expanding it even more, and now you're getting even more people. And it's like you keep doing that. But what you're actually adding each time is you're adding worse and worse and worse. What do you call that? Well, you're essentially doing the reverse of what you should be doing. Maybe you should start out actually wide, and then you should slowly narrow your gap until you get to the point where you're like, okay, now I know exactly only one person can fit in here. And it might take a long time to find that person, but if they do end up in this funnel is so specific that they're gonna fall out the end and it's gonna work. So yeah, you're essentially like starting out, usually you're starting out with a thin funnel, and then you kind of like expand it. But the problem is that you're inviting worse and worse candidates each time. And because they're worse candidates, you're not compatible enough that nothing really happens, or maybe you end up in a short-term relationship with someone. but because of the fact that they were one of the worst candidates, or they weren't part of your actual fun. I don't know if this makes any sense, but I think it does. And I think that a questionnaire about compatibility can kind of help here, because if we've done the questionnaire before, then we can match you with users that are actually going to be compatible with you. And you ideally wouldn't get as many of the people that are outside of what you actually are looking for. But because I think that the problem with normal dating apps is that I personally, at least, I don't really trust their matching algorithms. I don't trust that they're really trying to get you to find someone. I think that what they're doing is they're trying to get you. I don't know that this is a little bit cynical, and I don't know that I completely believe that this is the case, but I do think that at least some of the apps, they want you to be on the app for as long as possible. And so essentially they want to like drip feed you with just enough to get you to stay, but they don't want to give you exactly what you want, because if you get exactly what you want, then you're just going to leave. And that means that I also don't really trust the interest things and the hobbies, the questions that they're asking you, because it feels like are they even like, do they even use this stuff, or do they really use other data points that I have no idea about to match me? And that's what I don't want to do within my app. I want to make sure that everything should be open source, first of all. So everything is out on the Git. I guess the backend stuff where the algorithm will be won't be out on GitHub. But at least you can see here, if you're watching these videos, you can see what I've done and how I've thought about it. And hopefully that will give some sort of reassurance that we're trying to really hard to make sure that we're not doing any weird type of matching where we're looking at like attractiveness or those sort of things. Even though I think that's not completely... I think attractiveness is, as a metric, is not the worst thing. Like, it's honestly or obviously, attraction is going to play a huge role in compatibility. The problem with attraction is that it's not... I don't think that it is... I think it's one of those things that can be... how do you call it? Like... misrepresented a lot. Because I think that... Let's say that we took like 100 guys and we rated their looks based on 1,000 women's opinions of them. The problem with this is that there would be a correlation between, like, one person would be rated as the most good looking, like the most women would find this person the most good looking. But the problem is in the reverse of this, where let's say that we rate the women too, and we find the most good-looking woman and the most good-looking man. The probability, or the probability might be high that they find each other attractive, but the probability, or maybe not the probability, but the correlation between who the most attractive woman finds the most attractive is not going to be as high. It's not going to line up perfectly with what the average woman finds attractive, if that makes sense. Which means that let's say Tinder, for instance, let's say that they have a ranking system based on attractiveness. It means that some of the people that you find the most attractive might find you the most attractive too, but on average, that might not be. So this person, I don't know if this, I think this makes sense. I hope it does, but the idea is essentially that taste is so varied between people. Like some girls love a mustache on people, on guys. Some girls hate that. Some guys love makeup. Some guys hate makeup. And I don't know what I'm trying to find like something, but it's hard to find the exact thing. But essentially, what you're doing when you're using rating systems within apps to match people based on attractiveness or perceived attractiveness of the values that they can measure in the app is that you end up removing people or not matching people that might actually have matched if they've met like out in the real world, let's say. And you want to avoid that within apps as much as possible, I think. You want to give everyone as much of an equal chance or opportunity as possible. But ideally, I don't know if these things are actually the same. I don't know, maybe the compatibility thing is still the same, but I think that the compatibility thing is more relevant and more useful when trying to match people rather than attractiveness, because let's say that you get matched with the most attractive woman in the world. If that woman is completely incompatible with you, then there is no way that you're going to make that work. It's just not going to happen. And I think that's a hard pill to swallow at times. But I think that's a more fair reason to exclude someone from a pool. So let's say that I'm on the app, I answer these questions, and then the app creates a pool of users that would match with me. I think it's more fair to exclude users from that pool based on compatibility things, so text-based information about us, like essentially personality stuff, rather than looks, because looks don't always correlate, I don't think. Whereas these things, I think, are like, if you can get compatibility stuff that is like the core of compatibility, so not so trying as hard as possible to not go too deep into like I don't know, let's say that you'd go into star signs and things like that. It's like, well, if you're excluding people based on star signs, then I feel like you've gone too deep into this compatibility thing. Or if you're excluding people based on like, oh, my favorite food is steak, and someone else says that I hate steak, that's also like a compatibility thing that doesn't matter at all, I think. The deeper thing there might be that if my value is that I hate people in general that eat meat, and the other person has steak as their favorite meal, that might be the incompatibility thing, but not the actual meal. So it's a hard balance, I think, but it needs to be very like ruthlessly. We need to focus on what people, like the core compatibility things, like this will not work if these things are not there. Like for instance, if I want children and you do not want children, it's just not going to work. There's no point in showing you to me if that's the case. So those sort of things, like the hard questions that are important. And then I think we can rank order based on some softer qualities. So softer qualities might be love language might be a softer quality because because of the fact that unless we find a way to extract what your love language is without you being aware that this is about love language, so that we actually get like this is your actual love language. Unless we were able to do that, then it has to be considered a softer filter, because maybe you think that acts of service is your love language, but it's actually physical touch. It's just that you lacked acts of service in your last relationship, so now you're acting out. So yeah, these are some thoughts that I've had, and now we've gone for quite a while, so I guess we're going to come back in the next video. Hopefully the review has gone through, and we might have an app that's actually live and you can go download it, but we'll see. Anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I hope it was interesting to hear some of my thoughts about this stuff. It's at least good for me to just get to vent about it and formulate my thoughts live. It helps me kind of understand what I'm actually going for and what I'm trying to do here. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I hope I'll see you in the next one.